Welcome back, everybody, to the Rivals Rundown for LXC Sentinel pre-playoffs. Gonna be a shorter
Pre-playoffs.
one because we didn't really know how to do this. So we're only gonna rank the teams, but then we're gonna talk about the matchups as well. The nice thing about it is because there are less games, we can kind of maybe get into it a little bit more. But I am righteous. That, of course, is CB. CB early stream. You got a game coming up. How you feeling?
Uh, feel pretty good. Would have liked a little bit more practice. Had some conflicting schedules, but uh, feeling good going into playoffs and about this quick little stream just to put out something.
Sweet. Yeah, CB repping the merch.
hmm
Get your rivals hats soon. I don't know. I don't know what the plan is with that, but
Big J.
I do know we're gonna. Should we talk a little bit about the play-in matches? There was a little surprises there.
We
I don't
can.
know
I
if
can just
you're
pull up.
ready for that.
I can just pull up the
The
bracket
bracket
because it'll show it on there.
sounds good. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about the quarterfinal matches coming up later tonight, and then we will jump into our team rankings. Um, so first things first, both Sector 1 teams won. So there's that.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Easy
there's gonna
reads.
be there's gonna be five Sector 1 teams going into quarterfinals and only three Sector 2 teams, which is interesting. But regardless, the only series that went 3 games this last week for plans was TD Blessed versus Brom Lives Matter. I was watching a little bit of the series early on. I was casting during that time for another LXC league. And I thought it was going to be a quick BLM 2-0 the way that TDB lost game 1. It was not meant to be though. And TDB picks up the 2-1 victory. CB, any thoughts with that series?
Uh, yeah. It looked for a bit. It could have gone either way. Um, I forget just because BLM won game one, right? I forget. I don't remember.
BLM won game 1, correct.
Okay, yeah, I remember because I watched it. I watched both series live. Uh, TD picked it up game two, uh, and they just had full confidence and momentum going into game three. I'm just a big question mark around BLM's draft.
Yeah.
The knockout game three Lulu top is interesting. Um, so I don't know. TD looked solid in the second half of the series.
Now, what is interesting about the TD series, uh, LXC is gonna have, or somebody's gonna have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure they had 2 E-subs play, and that is the only series they can play in. You only get one series for E-subs. That was Toxin, and then I think
No, one of them wasn't an ESO.
it was, or they were counted as an E-sub because they didn't have the required games before playoffs.
Oh yeah, wasn't that?
I think Toxin didn't have enough games, or
Yeah, let me pull it up real quick because I
or
remember
one
seeing that.
hand.
Uh,
The only reason I make mention of this is because it will affect the quarterfinals match later tonight. NLE, I believe. You're gonna have to tell me. I don't know if you have any
of who's playing?
handshake comms. Well, of who's playing, then any potential ban losses.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
think the NLE game had one. Uh,
well, to my
it
knowledge, they're
was
gonna have to have some because I don't think.
okay. So this is what happened last week. Um,
Uh-huh.
Riven counted as an E sub, so they lost 2 bans, and then
Uh-huh.
they hand shook Toxin, so
Okay.
no E sub. That's why they lost bans game one. I guess. So
Yeah,
that
they only
was
had
that
two
was
bans
for
game 1.
so that was what happened last week. So only one E sub happened. I don't know how that works because even though you hand shook for that game, I mean, shouldn't it
Yeah, I think
still
it should
count
still
against
carry
you
over.
because
That's why I
this
was
next team
curious
didn't
about.
handshake it?
Yeah, that's why I was curious about NLE because if Riven's gonna play again, to my knowledge, Riven didn't get the games in before playoffs, so every game he plays in, I think will count as an E sub, or he could only play in that one series. I don't know.
I know Toxin is not scheduled to play today, so
Uh,
physiology jungle.
well, I don't think physiology can. He got a 2 week 2 week suspension from Riot.
Hmm.
So, uh, I don't know what they're gonna
I
do.
think I saw something that they're using. I saw it somewhere. I have to try to find it. Um, but I saw something about handshaking something. I don't know why I can't find it, but
And shaking something, regardless, TDB is gonna play in some form or fashion, but it's gonna be a tough task going against NLE, the number one seed from the better sector. Uh, Before we jump into the predictions for that matchup, though, we'll talk about the other play-in series, Plasma Wolves versus No Veracity. I thought Plasma Wolves would get a 2 game sample size for their starting five. Instead, we only got the one, as Trash Panda was there only for game two, I believe. This is not the starting five I thought they would run. I didn't think Nike Dragon would play. I thought it would be Wee's top. I thought it would be Feeny mid. Um, I don't think Feeny is a jungler by nature, by heart, by main role.
what they
Um,
did they not play the same lineup both games?
no, I think Trash Panda was gone game one, and so they ran a different player, or Tortuga. Or actually, no, I think Tortuga was gone. Trash Panda played ADC. I'm not sure who played support.
Okay. Yeah, because we don't have the windscreens to be able to check. I was gonna pull it up real quick to see who actually played. Um,
Tortuga was gone game one. That's correct. Okay. So Nike, who subbed for you support?
Kitten something something played support. Trash Panda
Oh
played AD
yeah,
carry.
yeah. And they squeaked by that game, I guess.
Yeah,
And
they were
then
down. They were down the first 30 something minutes of the game.
somehow came out to win it. And then
And
game
just
two, it wasn't very close from my recollection.
I think game two was game two like kill wise was close. It kind of felt like PLW had like in control of the driver's seat most of the game, but I guess kill wise it was pretty close game two for a while. Um,
Okay.
I don't know. I think once Veracity couldn't close out the first game, uh, it just felt like a big momentum shift. PLW came back, scaled enough, won game one, and then
Yeah.
felt confident going into game two.
Yeah, I was of the opinion that Veracity could only really pick up that series one if they beat game one. Like if they picked up that win game one to get themselves some like momentum, maybe put Plasma Wolves on their heels a little bit, just because it would have been the first game we saw all five players. Instead, we only got a 1 game sample size, so there's still a lot of unknowns regarding Plasma Wolves. Like I said, I didn't think it'd be Nike top coming into playoffs. I thought it'd be Weeze. Uh, and then I was surprised to see Feeny in the jungle role. Um, Trash Pan is kind of like a fill player from what I remember. Really smart player. He's been around the scene for a while. So I mean, like credit to both the teams that have been knocked out, Brawl Lives Matter and No Veracity for uh showing up and playing. Unfortunately, they couldn't pick up the wins, but regarding these two teams, these two play-in teams that have gone on to the quarterfinals, are the expectations the same for both of these teams? Are they higher for one or the other? What's your opinion here, CB?
I think if TD gets to play with their roster that they're running now, I guess, but I guess they're running physiology, so question marks around that. If they would have gotten to use uh, Toxin, I would say TD is looking decent moving forward. But using physiology tonight, I don't know, just because they keep swapping around the roster, so I don't know how confident I am in that. I feel like BLM had the opportunity to move forward, but just drafted very
Yeah.
interestingly. And then PLW only got the one game, but they feel like a more well-rounded team, and arguably maybe playing the easier team this next round. I don't know. It's kind of question mark around BBP. So
Yeah, I mean, what's int- what's interesting looking at the bracket here, you have basically two unknowns playing each other in the quarterfinals, right? This Plasma Wolves team that they've only had one game, I guess one official match, one official game even, as five players going against a team that nobody's seen unless you've seen them in scrims. You know, Pila Mirialis has stuck around. Um, of course, the support Lunar Paw is there as well, but then there's three players that are, and I guess Lord JK, two players,
yeah, he played
Merkmaster
one or two games, right?
and Big Z. Yeah, Lord JK came on probably halfway through. Um, but regardless, it's gonna be a makeup that nobody's really been used to. So that's gonna be kind of an interesting series to watch or follow or see what happens. I think my expectations are probably a bit higher for Plasma Wolves than TDB. I think we kind of know TDB ceiling, even if it's physiology playing. I am getting from an anonymous source that NLE has agreed to handshake everything. So it's gonna be full bans, gonna be regular rosters.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, this anonymous source is not very happy about it, but uh,
That's
it
good. That's some good. They're
is.
getting some good karma in. Uh, maybe for the
Yeah,
series, and you always want to win. Best versus best. It's just on the other
I
hand, it's like, don't
understand.
you just want to win regardless? So,
Yeah, yeah, and
so
it's there's some animosity I think between some of those players. So, regardless, even with that being said, I think NLE, if they come out and play their game, I don't imagine TDB is going to give them much of a fight. I think the floor of NLE is probably just about the ceiling of TDB. If TDB ends up picking up any games, let alone the match, it's they're gonna have to be playing to their almost to their like 99th percentile, like almost perfect. While NLE has a little bit of wiggle room, I think, to maybe come out flat or maybe not come out the sharpest and still probably they would probably be able to pick up a win. Um, Plasma was on the other hand, I think they have a couple things going for them. It seems like even though they haven't played a lot of games together, these are players that have been around each other. They at least come off as friendly or well known, and um, they have some chemistry, and um, they also have that unknown factor, right? Like, what does Feeny Jungle look like with more reps, or how does Nike Dragon look top off the tanks and stuff like that. So I mean, there's a lot of questions that other teams have to answer that they can use in their favor. So I guess in terms of like expectations, I would imagine Plasma Wolves probably has a little bit higher expectations than TDB. Um, but with that being said, are you ready to talk about the predictions?
yeah, yeah. You want to start top down or bottom up?
Whichever you want to do. Top down's fine
Let's.
with me.
Okay. Sounds good. I was gonna say bottom up. It's okay. Okay, let's
Okay,
start
go
with
bottom up. Go bottom up.
let's start bottom up because that's kind of the, you can say, hardest or easiest one to predict, just because it's just
Yeah.
who knows on both sides. Um, I because these are all best of fives, right? So,
hmm
um, obviously PLW got a little extra official game practice, barely,
hmm
um, comparatively. So I have no idea how much any of the teams are scrimming. Some teams scrim a couple times a week. Some teams are just like, I'll see you game day. Um, but I'm gonna rock with a BBP 3-1 win, and
Okay.
I'm gonna give that one win. Uh, that's because Nike Dragon Diff, so they pick out one win. But I'm gonna rock with the three returning players for BBP being enough.
Um, I mean, I kind of agree. Uh, I think BBP. I mean, three of the five are players that have been playing for a couple weeks now. I've been paying attention to the chats. Merc Masta, apparently is a really really solid jungler, and then I feel like Big Z. I mean, it could have been, some rando that they just thrown in, and being there with Lunarpaw, I think they'd look fine. Um, the question I have with both these players, Big Z60 and Merkmasta, or sorry, Big Z60, and then on the other side, the mid laner for Plasma Wolves Wall Street. Just looking at the OPs, it seems like they're borderline one tricks. I imagine they play other stuff. Um, Wall Street, probably like a three trick, I guess. Three solid champions. Um, you know, I'm gonna go 3-2 BBP. I see Plasma Wolves, I guess, giving them fits early. Maybe taking the first or second game, and then it gets kind of tight as it goes through. I am expecting a full 5 game series though, just because there's so much unknown. Both of these teams are kind of like develop a little in-series meta on the fly. They're gonna figure each other out as the series goes on, which is why best of fives are so good, because you get to learn from your mistakes, learn from the opponent's play patterns, and the best teams adapt. And I think both of these teams are going to be really good at adapting. But I have BBP coming out 3-2.
Okay, okay. Something to mention, as I'm sure all the players are aware, it is not fearless, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So all champs are always available, but best of 5.
Yeah, it's best of 5, and if you're a player that you're really comfortable on one champ, but then it gets kind of shaky outside of those. You have maybe one game where you can get your hands on it, and then if you pop off that game, I mean, the expectation is like you're probably not going to get it again, right? Whether it's picked or banned
Yeah.
away from you, and I think that's why I'm a little bit hesitant for those two players. Um, I'm I don't know if I should talk about like the actual champ pools I see in front of my eyes,
Nah.
but they are there for everyone to see, and so I just think uh, um, in those best of fives champ pools, even with it not being fearless, um, it it does go a long ways in these best of series. So we'll see. But we're going bottom up, so it's gonna be TFF, Chill Guys, and Roar next. This one is I imagine is gonna be closer than people think.
Yeah. It's I believe, in my opinion, that RAR is using probably their best lineup. Um, no,
What, they
no
got Doki
shade,
in?
no
No,
shade
I'm
to
just kidding.
anybody.
Just kidding.
Uh, I mean, Doki playing adds the
He's the
what?
wild card.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was looking for. I was looking for the right word, the wild card factor. So that's, I think that there is positives to that, but as of right now, he's not scheduled to play. So it'll be Moisting Jungle, Pickle Mid, Macho 80 Carry, Adrian Support, Featherstop.
Yep.
And I believe for TFF it's their normal roster. So
Yeah, it's gonna be the best of each of these individual team rosters. I mean, I've said it before in various broadcasts and then watching rivals play. TFF, their team identity is pretty clear. It is play non-interactive for the first 15-20 minutes, let your mid and ADC scale up, and then group as 5 and win the game. And they did it really well against rivals. They've done it pretty much against almost everyone they've played. Um, Roar, on the other hand, though, with the diverse champion pools from jungle and mid, I mean, when you're playing against stuff that you're not accustomed to seeing, it also makes you either play into their hands because you think you're doing the right thing, but you're really not. You're just not used to seeing an Aphelios mid or a Rek'Sai jungle, or on the flip side, you just kind of get off your game and you're not really thinking about what your game plan is. I feel like that's where Roar can kind of, if they're gonna take this series, find some strength in having um, that unique look that they can give TFF. Um, I think it's gonna be, I think it's gonna be close. I don't know if it's gonna go the full 5 games. Um, I think if Roar wins game 1, that would go a long way for them picking up the series. But I'm going 3-1 TFF.
okay. Part of me, part of me wants to say RAR just because I think it is possible. Um, it's tough because they play with seemingly a different roster every week. So
Yeah.
how much realistic practice do they have as a team? Um, I think the games are going to be close regardless of the actual series number.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Something in my heart. Maybe it's bias because I do think TFF is one of, if not the best team. They also straight dumped on us, so it's no shade. I just feel like RAR's gonna come out swinging. I'm gonna go RAR 3-2
A2 full
spicy upset.
five, huh?
Full five
Okay.
spicy upset.
Yeah, I feel like if Roar is gonna pick it up, it is gonna go full five. The thing I'm curious about is how they play after game one, right? Because I think both of these teams kind of have an idea of what they want to go for the first game, but then after game one, does Roar adapt to what TFF's trying to do, or does TFF kind of have to pick it up in the early game? I guess it depends on who wins, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
they have, it seems like they have different playstyles, so it's just which one's gonna overcome the other. Um,
well, I would say they do, but at the same time, I feel like Roar would probably be a little bit easier to adapt to the late game style rather than TFF have to play the early game, if that makes sense. Because like with Roar, you have Feathers in the top lane who like that guy's on an island. I think he's gonna have an easy enough time against Islamic Samurai. It's gonna come down to like how the mid bot lane functions, and if they have to switch up and play some scaling, I think Roar can do that. Really, what I think this series hinges on is like the mid lane matchup, though. Stink Pickle has that unique pool, but I don't see him ever playing like your stereotypical mages, and that's either going to be really good for Roar or really bad.
yeah,
I'm not. I just don't know what it's going to be. You know, that's my.
true, true,
If
true.
Roar's mid can get going, then they have a chance. But if they don't see the success that they're used to being, at least used to seeing the last couple weeks, it won't really work out. So
Yeah, yeah.
we'll see.
We'll see. I'm not gonna be surprised if TFF pulls out a 3-0. So by no means do I think. I think TFF's the better team. I'm just thinking that RAR could put something together to somehow make it happen with the upsets.
That's your spicy pick. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
that's a
spicy
spicy
pick.
pick. I don't know. We can say a couple words about our series, but we're not gonna do a little prediction. Obviously, each team goes for themselves, so it's not like anything crazy.
Yeah, it'd be weird if I was saying, yeah, I think OSG is gonna win. No, this is a team that we've had a little bit of experience with in scrims. Scrims aren't indicative of actual like real match performance or anything like that. I do think they're coming off of an easier sector. So if you're talking about like the bulk of the resume, I feel like Rivals kind of has been tested a little bit more than OSG. I do know OSG is using a different top laner than has been the case for the last couple weeks. They're gonna have Venture
Yep,
B up there,
yep, yep.
um, which could be a good thing or could be a bad thing depending on you know what his experience is with top. Rivals knows their game though, and I feel like if questioning and error can't get going on some of those champs that he's been um, playing the last couple weeks. Some of those unique champs. OSG might be in trouble, but on the other hand, if he does, then we're gonna have to over adapt or overcome and adapt to that. So I think it's gonna be a fun series regardless. But yeah, we're
Yeah,
not gonna do a prediction.
I think it'll be a good series. We are one of the teams I think that finally, put some respect on their name. So by no means did we um, look too far ahead. We're aware Sub Zero is very good, so we'll see how
Yeah.
it goes. Last but not least, NLE
Yeah.
Chapas versus TD Blessed. Already talked a decent amount about TD Blessed and the handshakes and everything. They are using, I'd still call it a sub jungle, I guess, or someone who they haven't used in at least the last week, maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Um,
Second
but
string. Second string jungler.
second string, yes, okay. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, they're coming off a 2-1 win, kind of a weird series against BLM. Um, again, with kind of a different roster. NLE's looked probably the most stable, solid, consistent team. throughout the split, maybe. Um, I mean, it's if TD Blessed had their roster from last week, I might put it as a pretty close series. But as they're not gonna run that roster, I don't know. I'm just gonna go quick NLE 3-0, to be honest.
Yeah, so you had a spicy pick for Roar and TFF. I'm gonna have a spicy pick here. I think being the nice guy backfires on NLE. I have TDB beating them 3-2.
Whew.
I think if TDB wins the first game, it's gonna upset a
I
lot of
agree. I
people
agree. If
on
TDB picks up
NLE.
the first game, that's a big shift because if not everybody on the team wanted the same thing or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but if NLE wins the first game, then like, okay, it doesn't matter. Let's just rock it out. So
Yeah,
I think it's
so
gonna first game decides it in my opinion.
if NLE picks up the game one win, then I could easily see the NLE 3-0. But if TDB picks up that first win, man, I could see it going full 5 games. If TDB wins, all I know is there are gonna be some salty people somewhere out there in Sentinel chat. So that
We'll
would be
see.
interesting.
They have
It
an
would be
extra
interesting.
extra 30 minutes to prepare, so they could
Yeah.
get back. Yeah, we'll see. Okay, we each got a spicy
Yeah.
pick in there.
All right, so quick break and then the team rankings.
Yep.
All
Quick
right.
3 or 4 minute break, and then we're just gonna do the 8 teams playing today rankings. So we will be right back.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Rivals Rundown for the LXC Sentinel pre-playoff show, I guess you can call it.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about our predictions. We're split on some. We're in agreement on others. It's gonna be fun regardless. But now we're gonna go into. So our thinking was, we just did player rankings, and the only thing that's changed is the play-in games. We figured let's save the player rankings for after the first week of playoffs and instead just do the team rankings for where we think these teams line up, and then call it good.
Yeah.
Um, you guys can be mad at us if you want, but it just feels silly to change stuff based off of
2 games.
2 games, yeah, 2 matches. So we're gonna do the team rankings instead for the remaining 8 teams, and then you guys got games to play, and I got one to cast. So right off the rip, TDB at number 8. The way we did this, once again, purely 100% bias between me and CB, just because the stats really haven't changed all that much. Um, so I mean, CB could talk about how he ranked his. For mine, I kind of just did it as where do I expect these teams to place when playoffs is over? Like where would their final standings be? Um, but
Yeah.
anyways,
I.
the way we go
Sorry,
ahead.
my bad. I thought you were done.
No, go ahead.
I took a little bit of everything into consideration because I took into account how they just played. I mean, obviously we got more games for 2 of the teams.
Hmm.
Um, Also, who they're about to play. Put a little bit of weight into that. It's kind of unfair, but also we're looking at kind of like a playoff specific ranking. Um, and some say TD has the hardest route to the final. So, um, and also that their whole E sub situation. So, all of that wrapped together is why I
Yeah.
agree that they're down there.
From what I remember, there's only like 1 or 2 teams that we were a little bit different on. We're generally kind of right on the same
I think
page.
7, 8. I assume were
Yeah, 7, 8 were
flip
flopped
flopped,
for me.
but
So I went with
yeah, you went
the
with your
regular
season.
season ranking. No. I went with the regular season ranking. We talked about this. Whenever there's ties, I just go with the actual
Yeah, yeah,
standings so far. So TDB ends up at number 8. Um,
yeah. I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, they have a lot of questions. How does physiology play in the playoff settings, best of 5 settings? Can Riven hang, or is he to have an off week, off couple weeks? Do teams continue to handshake the penalties or not? So I think with all that, TDB at 8 makes sense to me. We could talk about why that might not be the case when we talk about the next team up. So at number 7, we have dun, 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 Plasma Wolves. A lot of question marks as well. Less so about the logistics of everything, and more so about like really what is this team gonna look like. I feel like if they get past this quarterfinals round against BPP, then this ranking might look silly, but it's just a big if, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean for both teams, they could pull the upset. It's not impossible, but just what based on what we saw last round against their kind of competitions in the play-ins, and some of the question marks on some of the players, this feels right. And I guess naturally the 2 teams that had to play a play-in game
Yeah,
landed at 7
at
and
the
8.
bottom. I mean, we could talk about why we have them in differently. So I had TDB at 8. You had Plasma Wolves at 8. Um, do you want to talk about why the difference between the two? Why do you think Plasma
I
Wolves is
I
a little
did
bit
it that
lower?
way because I thought that BLM was better than No Veracity,
Okay.
and um, now I'm blanking on who played who, but
TDB played Veracity and Plasma Wolves, or sorry, Plasma Wolves played Veracity. TDB played BLM.
so that's probably why I ranked TD at 7 because they beat a tougher opponent
A
in my
better team.
opinion.
Hmm.
I think it was a toss up either way, but that's why
Yeah.
I did it.
Yeah. I mean, uh, I agree. It could have been a toss up either way. I went with TDB just because, like I said, I feel like Plasma Wolves has a lot of question marks that, if they have answers to, but the teams they're playing don't. That's a huge advantage coming into playoffs. The sad thing for them is they do play BBP, which also kind of has that same thing going for them. So, um, like I said, if they make it past, then I think Plasma Wolves could probably make some noise, but that's just a big if. And TDB, we kind of know what to expect from that roster. I just don't see it going too far, especially if they continue to have to suffer some like ban losses and stuff like that. Number six, Roar. Um,
This one was
think
tough. This one was kind of tough to rank. I
yeah,
think what was it 4, 5, 6 for me were all. It was kind of tough.
yeah. We have the same range for those three teams, or we have the same teams within that range. It's just a matter of where they ended up falling. You had Roar, I think, one spot higher,
Yeah,
I
it could
believe.
have. It yeah, I agree. I mean,
I
Raj has
have
been
a
on
more
kind of a tear
Roar.
lately, and so that's
Yeah.
why it was. I mean, it's 8 playoff teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you're on the list, you're good. So it's
Yeah.
it's not like oh, being at 6 is bad by any means. So it was tough where to put RAR. It makes sense just based on record and who they have to play and everything. That this middle third, I guess, is where they land. So I wouldn't again. I put them as a spicy upset tonight,
Mm-hmm.
so they could definitely be on the list next week. We'll see.
Yeah, I think he had him one spot higher. I had him right here at six. Um, the I guess the questions I have for me is like, what happens if mid can't just lock in whenever he wants and do good on it, or what happens if Moisting comes out and has like a little bit of the early season trouble that we saw, where he's going no KP with 4 deaths and stuff like that. Like, I mean, I just feel like Roar's high is really high, but also their lows are really low.
That's
So
fair.
it's hard to bet on that in a playoff setting where you would value some consistency. But like you said, 6, 5, and 4, kind of a toss up in my opinion. I think it's pretty clear who we think are the best three teams. Um, but Roar at 6 feels okay to me. Maybe the 5. The more we talk about it, maybe I'd be uh, incentivized to maybe swap my vote, I guess. But number 5, OSGS. So this is the team that we strayed the most on from. You had them at 6. I have them at 4. So they end up at 5.
Okay, okay.
Maybe.
You're gonna out me like that on the stream. I'm
Well,
just
no,
kidding.
no.
No, I'm just
I mean,
kidding.
we're gonna ask
So
you,
the
but.
yeah, so the reason isn't because of Sub Zero. It's really
Hmm.
just because of the other two, and I think you already said it. Assumed that the other two are the same
Hmm.
um, for us. So it's because I think RAR's just been the hottest team as of late,
Hmm.
in my opinion. And then I guess I don't want to divulge who's next, but the other team, it's so many question marks around it that I erred on the side of the question marks being in their favor for this other
Okay.
team that's above them. Um, so Sub Zero, of course, a team that we slept on early. I feel weird. I feel weird just talking about it just because it's like bad juju we're about to play them, right?
Hmm.
Um, but I don't know. I think 4, 5, 6 could have gone either way. It was just kind of the other two. I had more justification, so that's why.
Yeah. Yeah, so I have OSGS as 4. They're the number 2 seed coming out of Sector 2. The of the top 2 seeds, the one that we know the most of. And I think they've been getting better week in and week out. They did come off of a disappointing loss against DPH. Granted, that was a DPH team that we hadn't seen. Just kind of rolling up the last week to have some fun and I guess pick up a win. Um, but to your point, this team that's coming up at the 4 spot, I had the opposite feeling where I feel like having so many question marks that um, could play an advantage for PLW. I don't have that for this team that's yet to be talked about. Um, so I feel like they're at a disadvantage. I guess you could I mean, you might as well just
Yeah,
pull up this team
that's
so
what
we
I
can
was
talk
doing.
about it.
That's what I was making it.
So number 4 is Bunny Brawler Pause. Um, you know, for all the the outside, um, the how I say the controversy surrounding the org that formerly held this spot. They did have the best jungler by far of the league, and that's a big thing that they're potentially going to miss. I just don't know if you're going to compare those two teams, if this team stacks up as well as that previous team did, you know. And if that's the case, I don't see that being a good thing for them. Whereas Plasma Wolves, once they exploded and everything happened, they were, I mean, it was a pretty poor showing from them week in and week out. So I feel like they're going to probably be better than what they were for those last couple of weeks. Um, I think BBP is probably going to be worse, which I had them at number 5. So all things relative. But this is a team that we don't really know anything, and they could I mean, in my opinion, they could easily lose to Plasma Wolves 3-0, just because we just don't know, you know.
True. Yeah, I agree. We just I think we had the same question marks. I just erred on the side of having
Yeah,
confidence in the 3 players that I do know, that I
yeah,
have seen play. So
which is totally valid. I just, it really just ended up being where that OSGS came in, where that spot came in. So, I don't know, a lot to look forward to for Bunny Brawler Pause. They either prove me wrong or they prove me right. So we'll see if it's a blessing in disguise having these two new players, or if it's maybe they're not as good as their previous iteration. Rivals at 3, uh, right behind the two teams not on the list quite yet. The only two teams
yeah, I
we've
mean
lost.
we know who the teams are. Obviously, we just don't.
Yeah,
So the 2 teams that beat us, so naturally
yeah,
makes sense. You could make the argument that it's biased to put Rivals ahead of BBP,
yeah.
but I still feel like it's a fake undefeated record. Not to say they couldn't have gone undefeated with this roster, but we just don't know. So 3-4, maybe you can make the argument. I don't know, but I feel confident that it doesn't look too crazy that we're at 3.
Yeah, I think it's a good spot. I definitely feel like the top 3 are pretty secure. You can debate about these upcoming 2 teams where they should fall. Um, but uh, you know, it's if you're looking at these from the sector perspective, it's like, okay,
True.
we think that the bottom 2 teams of Sector 1 are slightly below the top teams of Sector 2. And
Yeah.
then the top teams of Sector 1 round out the top 3. So I mean, if you're going off of that, it makes sense. If you are a Sector 1 believer or a Sector 2 hater, I guess. Um, I think that kind of is just kind of accurate about how these power rankings have developed. At number 2, TFF Chill Guys. Now, um, I had them at number
Say it.
2.
Don't lie.
I had them at number 2.
Don't lie to the people.
I was not the one that had them at number 1. Um,
Okay.
I'll put this on me, where I just think their style of play is so good for playoffs. All it takes is one bad game, and they. I just feel like if they have to change their philosophy, if potentially if Islamic Samurai gets exposed on the top side, going against some of the better top laners in the league, or if mid lane gets pushed, or if bot lane just has a bad game, it's just so you have all your eggs in one basket, and if that basket breaks, it's scary to me, I guess.
True,
Where
true. But
if
if you're so good at it that it's
yeah, then
almost
it's
unbeatable, then you're big chilling. So
yeah,
I get you.
yeah. So I definitely think you could debate where these teams should go. That's why I had them at number 2, and
Okay, okay.
that's why they ended up at number 2 because of
Yeah,
the regular
because you
season.
had them in. Okay,
Yeah, because I had a no, no, no. Because of the regular season standings, they ended up
okay,
number 2 seed.
okay.
Um,
I put them at number
I
1
yeah, yeah,
because I already put it in the chat off rip. It was that they beat both rivals and NLE, and so
Yeah.
it feels weird to not have them above both teams that they beat. Not that necessarily, across a full season, um, one head-to-head match necessarily means you're going to be above that because that's just impossible to do it that way. Um, but it just seems like TFF knows how to win, knows what they have to do, and they execute it really well.
Yeah.
Maybe you could say that I had bias because um, they beat us decently. It wasn't super close, and so maybe you could say that I put them one just because of how badly they beat us. But I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Beating the other two teams, I feel like should hold a lot of weight. Don't disagree. 1 and 2 could have been flop either way, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean they definitely own the head to head, but then they have like, the question mark losses, right? Like they lost to TDB, which hasn't looked really good the past couple weeks. So like that's why I feel like this team, in terms of, I guess if you're looking at the top two, the top three, which of them you feel like is more beatable? I just went with the team that has their one style of play. If you can come up with a response to it, then they have a lot of shakiness. It's not like a firm foundation they can stand on if all of a sudden the way that they've been beating teams doesn't work for them anymore. NLE, on the other hand, has shown a lot of different styles. Um, they, in terms of their five individual players, I would say they're top three in every role. Um, and that's tough to bet against
Yeah,
for the playoffs.
yeah, yeah. I think yeah, 1-2 could have been either way. It makes sense that they're number one. It's arguably the most uh, consistent team. I think player ranking wise, it was pretty close probably between NLE and TFF, but
Yeah.
um,
Well,
spread out wealth of
yeah.
skill for their team.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference between these two is I think NLE probably has the better top liner in terms of um like their laning. I think once Islamic Samurai gets outside of laning, I think he's really good, but his laning was tough to watch against rivals. Um, which is kind of another question mark about TFF. That's no shade thrown at him. He's a support main. He's stepping up for his team. They're winning. Um, it's just something to observe coming into the playoffs, right? And you know, the fun thing about best of five playoff series is it could be just one game that breaks a team, right? Where, they're up 2-0 and then all of a sudden they have a really bad game three and then the reverse sweep happens, or the other team starts to figure out how to beat them, or, whatever it might be. And I feel like any of these 8 teams could probably take a series off of one another given the correct circumstances, getting them on a certain day or whatever. So it just could have come down to what they show here in a couple hours, or I guess 1 hour.
Yeah, 1 hour, an hour and a half for one of the games, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there you have it. Team,
There you have it, the team rankings.
the 8 chosen teams that made playoffs, the official playoffs.
So we will figure out how we do the player rankings. Hopefully, there's like a playoff specific stat sheet we can look at or something. Regardless of that, good luck on everybody on their games tonight. Good luck to everybody on their games tonight. Um, I'll be casting alongside Husky finally, for the first time in
Finally,
like a
that
month.
quitter.
Yeah, dude. So rivals and OSG is gonna be covered, and then I believe LXC is taking the TFF game, TFF versus
Rar.
Roar,
Yeah. Ooh.
which I think is a pretty good banger to follow. What is that? Number 2 versus number 3 seed.
I think so. Yeah, they're Rars 3, TFS 2.
Yeah. So I mean that is a tough ask. Um, so I hope it's a good series. But yeah, if you guys are interested in seeing how Rivals go, we'll be live here in about an hour. Till
Yeah,
then,
yeah, yeah.
have a good one. Fade to black. Okay.